Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Cutler, and I'll be your host for today. May is moving right along. So May, we always spend a little bit of time talking about biodiversity, talking about the weird and the wonderful, wildlife, plants, and animals all over our planet. We share what's happening, of course, the issues and the impacts of climate change and things like that. And then, of course, we always share good news conservation stories. So join us throughout the month. We still have lots more live events coming up. And then June will be oceans. We always spend a lot of time talking about ocean. And we're going to have an environmental week for the first time as well early on in June. So those events will all be coming out in the next newsletter coming your way. Well, we love live connections. We love them from homes and labs and offices and zoos and aquariums. But anytime that we can go live into the field, it always makes the connection extra special when we're beaming somewhere live around our planet. Last week, we were beaming live from the Galapagos all week long. And today, we are going to take a trip to a different part of the world. We are going to head to the large, massive, beautiful continent of Africa. And we're going to have a very familiar face spending time with us. We're going to have Joe Cutler with us, an ichthyologist and National Geographic explorer, freshwater ecologist. You may have remembered Joe joining us in the past on his adventures in Gabon, exploring the Ogooue River. Oftentimes we have Joe in California scrambling around tide pools for us and finding all kinds of great things like little baby octopuses and nudibranchs. He is currently working with the Wild Bird Foundation of America on the Wilderness Project to survey the great rivers of Africa. So we are going to join him live at the Kafue River in Zambia. And Joe is also carrying one of our Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants flags. So we've just started sending out some of these flags on various expeditions. This one here has been to Peru in the Amazon and then was recently in the Galapagos. And so Joe is carrying out one of our first officially flagged expeditions. So this river is the longest river entirely within Zambia. It flows for 1,600 kilometers, and Joe and his team are paddling its entire length, studying the biodiversity, the water quality, and conservation of this system. So let's head to the banks of that river. Let's bring Joe in with us right now. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Joe, I'm doing great. Great to join you today.
All right. It is so great to have you joining us live. We are big fans of Starlink units. We've been using them to do some pretty cool broadcasts. And look at how clear we've got you right now from Zambia. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty remarkable to be in the middle of the largest and oldest national park in Zambia on the banks of the Kafue River. No cell phone network, no noise, no nothing. And here we've got a great connection. So it's really exciting to be able to join in.
Amazing. Well, Joe, let's start off. Get us up to date. It has been a bit of an adventure as you've explored the river so far. Get us up to date with your exploration so far. And then I know there's lots for us to see today. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, it's been a huge adventure. We've actually been on the river now. Today was day 41 of moving and 47 since we started. So we started on the 30th of March, right on the border of the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we have been on the river moving downstream the entirety thereafter. I think I've had 4 showers since then, and I've been sleeping in a tent the whole time. And I've actually only been indoors twice since the end of March. So it's been a great adventure. Where we started, the Kafue River was bubbling out of a wetland, and the Democratic Republic of Congo was just beside us. And we walked for about 6 days, the first 50 kilometers of the trip before we launched kayaks. And then we pushed into some floodplains, eventually making it into the Copperbelt region, where we had a ton of rapids, and we had our canoes at that point. We had a bunch of capsizes, a bunch of unexpected swims in the river. Uh, and we really battled through that stretch. A few days, we only made it 4 kilometers. So slow going, but a good adventure. We're now, you can see behind me now, the Kafue is quite big. Just yesterday, we passed the confluence of the Lunga River, and that almost doubled the size of the Kafue. So we've been able to paddle quite efficiently the last 2 weeks or so, averaging about 30 kilometers a day. And we're still only halfway down the river. So we're about 900 kilometers into the transect, and we've still got another 700 kilometers to go. So that's, we've got a lot ahead of us, but hopefully we'll be able to make better pace than we have up to date. And our goal right now is not just to paddle the river and explore the system, but to study it. And so as we're going downstream, we're looking at water quality, we're looking at the fish diversity, the bird diversity, the mammals. We're also looking at human impacts on the system. So we're looking at fishing pressure, mining, deforestation, and all sorts of other activities that take place along the Kafue River. And we've seen this river change time and time again. You know, right from where it was beginning, and then through the floodplains, it totally changed. And then back into the copper belt with all those rapids. That was a totally different experience. And now, these last 4 or 5 days, we've been paddling through protected areas. So we started in the Mushingashi Conservancy, and now we're within Kafue National Park. And now the river is full of wildlife. Last night in our camp, before we set up our tents, we did a quick look around, and there were hippo tracks and elephant tracks and impala and puku tracks and lion tracks and leopard tracks as well. And while we were sleeping, you could hear the hippos grunting and barking in the river. And then at some point in the night, we heard some funny sounds coming through camp. And there were actually lions that came through our camp last night. And we saw the fresh footprints this morning. So that was a bit harrowing. And today, I mean, we've had an incredible day in terms of wildlife viewing. We've seen lots of puku, lots of impala, water buck and bush buck. We've seen we elephants and crocodiles and hippos and even a couple lions as we paddled today. So that was very exciting. And today, actually, we paddled past at least 200 hippos. We got charged a few times. We actually had to scramble out of our boats because we had some grumpy hippos who were pretty unhappy to have us spook them and wake them up. So it's been a great adventure, but an incredible opportunity to collect scientific data on this river system. So as you mentioned, Joe, this is the longest river that falls fully within Zambia. It is one of the major tributaries of the Zambezi. And I can hear some hippos behind me just now. And also, this is the most important river in Zambia for its people. 40% of the population in Zambia lives within the Kafue watershed. And, most of the major cities and towns fall within the Kafue. Most of the agriculture in the country is in the Kafue Basin, and, a lot of the protected areas as well. It's also a hotspot for mining activity. So it's been really interesting to measure water quality as we go downstream and see, the areas of high impact, but also the areas that the river cleans itself. So in particular, these floodplains seem to really clean and purify the water. And so that's been a really interesting thing for us to study. And I think it's going to be a really powerful data set that we can use to hopefully help improve management and conservation of this system for future generations. So I did want to kind of show off a bit and give you all a tour, not just my smiling face, but I wanted to show you guys what our canoes look like, what our camps look like. I'd like to also introduce some of my team members here. So I'm going to just get up from where I'm seated and walk you over here to the bank of the river. It's
If
pretty
you
darn. Oh,
if you
yeah.
want, Joe, to make things a little bit easier for you, you should be able to pick the settings and camera and switch between your back and front camera. And then it might make it a bit easier for you when you're navigating.
Yep, that will be much easier.
Perfect.
All
Oh,
right.
I have a question here, Joe. Miss McKinnon's class is joining us from Maine, and they're wondering, are the hippos close enough to see right now or just here?
You know, as we pulled up to this spot, we displaced several hippos. So they were a little upset because they like to come out and graze here in this nice grassy patch where we've set up camp. Uh, right now, most of the hippos are there on the far bank. I can actually see them right there, but I don't know if you'll be able to see them through the camera. But if you heard that, that was some hippos grunting just downstream. It seems like over on this side, there are a few that are starting to make some noise.
Yeah, we'll keep listening, Joe, but you're right. The bank's a little too far. And it's probably not too bad that they're a little bit away from camp right now.
Yeah, who knows whether or not they're going to come say hello this evening, but I'll give you guys our breakdown of how we're trying to protect our camp for the evening. So you can see this is the canoe I've been paddling in. It's got some equipment in it, but most of it's unpacked for the evening. And we had to climb up this really steep bank along these routes to get up here. And this is home sweet home. My poor tent that has traveled all around Zambia with me, and a lot of mosquitoes and sweat now part of the tent. And you can see just here in the background, we've built a small fire there, and we've built a small fire there, and we've got our main camp here, and we've also got another fire at the far end of camp. And the intention is to let the animals know that we're here for the night so that they don't come and pay us a nighttime visit. So I'm going to just now walk you all through camp, maybe give you a little view of the sunset here and a little bit of the landscape. So the landscape has been changing quite a bit over the last couple days. It's quite dry here, and actually Zambia is undergoing a really epic drought right now, probably the worst drought on record. And the Kafue is right now flowing at dry season levels, even though they should be. I mean, the Kafue should be flooding these plains that I'm standing in right now. So it's several meters below normal. But I'm just going to walk by. You can see all of our nice bright yellow, orange tents here. And I've got a few of my team members over here. All right, guys. I want to say hello to everyone.
Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you?
All right, Mr. Ernest, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, yes, me, I'm Ernest Scully from the Seke, Western Province.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Mike. I'm one of the researchers. I work with Joe, and I'm from Durban in South Africa.
Hello, how are you? My name is Fundis. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm the pegger in the river. Pegging with hippos. I am Vincent Ikainyan from Sesheke. I'm here at Kafue River, also pedaling down to Zambezi River. Thank you.
Okay. And what are your guys' impressions of the river? How has it been?
It's been really phenomenal to see the river. I think it's been incredible to see it all the way from the start and be able to follow it down its course. And that's a special privilege that few people will ever get the chance to do. And yeah, amazing to see, as Joe said, from a little bubbling stream to now a 150 or 200 meter wide stretch. It's been a real treat recently to enter into the national park. So in the last few days, we've probably seen 500 or 600 hippos. We've seen loads of other game. We had a lion sighting today. So it's been really nice to have that taste of nature again, because before this it had been very human impacted. It's been very cool to see how the natural spaces that are still here are cleaning up the human impact, and there's still so much life and so much hope for this river.
And how are you guys feeling with the hippos? You guys are feeling good?
Now you are feeling good. Yeah, so far you are feeling good.
Even when they're chasing the boats?
No, you are feeling good. You are still feeling good. It's part of expedition.
We've had a few close encounters, and last night we had some lions patrolling around our campsite. Their footprints were directly behind the tents, and one of our teammates got a little bit nervous in the night. So this morning when he came out of his tent, he had one of these huge kitchen knives that he was wielding, and he spent the whole night sitting up, waiting, not sure where the animals were coming from. So we're sometimes brave, but we definitely get nervous at times as well too, I can promise you that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So Joe, let me jump in with a question while you're moving through the camp.
Yeah.
Another question from a student wants to know, is this the same camp you were in last night, or is this a different camp you've set up at the end of the day?
No, this is a different camp. So every night we're moving down the river. I think since we started, we've only had 4 days off. So it's been very mobile. Mr. Chongo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. All right. Hi. My name is Bernard Chongo. I'm part of the team and one of the research scientists. I'm a Zambian. And yeah, that's about me.
And what are your impressions of the river so far?
Well, yeah, I'm thrilled to be part of the team, and it's been exciting. And I just heard somebody talk about somebody with a huge knife being threatened. That's me. I'm the guy. Well, I mean, I think everyone would be scared. Having your first experience being on such an expedition, and then I'm not really one of the people who's been like outside. And this expedition for me has been quite revealing, being in touch with nature, you know, and always constantly being on water. Yeah.
Nice one, Bernard.
Yeah.
Mr. Alex, can I have you introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you so much. My name is Alex Liseli. I'm a wildlife police officer. I work under the Department of National Parks and Wildlife here in Kafue National Park. I'm with the team providing security. You know, we are in the national park, one of the largest national park in Africa. I would say it's the second largest park in Africa, and the oldest here in Zambia. So with the team, my role is to provide security, as I've already mentioned, so that to ensure that there is no danger from wild animals. And the team is doing well. We are looking at biodiversity along the Kafue River. I started working with them from Mushingashi, and I will be going with them to Lake Itestes, where the park ends. It's about 250 kilometers on the eastern side of the Kafue National Park. I think that's all about me for now.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Alex. And I should also mention that you're an expert in everything from fish to birds to benthic macroinvertebrates, and you know the whole system so well.
Yeah,
so you're a lot more than just providing security.
Exactly. That is, I'm not limited to security, as Joe has mentioned. Yeah, I'm also helping in identifying what we have in the variety of wildlife we have. That birds, be it fish, be it insects or any other thing that we have in the park. All the other species, at least I'm trying to work with the team together.
Thank you, Mr. Alex.
So Joe, before you leave Mr. Alex, I have a question from a classroom for him. They want to know what Mr. Alex's favorite part of the expedition has been so far.
All right. What's been the best part of the expedition for you, Mr. Alex?
Yeah, the best part of the expedition is paddling the Mukolo, because it's been my first time, and also having to see lots of things in the expedition, especially as I mentioned, a lot of different species. So I'm quite impressed. You know, you cannot see those things just anyhow, but once you are on such an itinerary, it becomes very easy. Okay, I would say, because I'm on duty and we are there seeing a lot of things.
Yeah, it's been interesting for a few of our team members. This is their first time paddling, and they're paddling down a river that's full of rapids and crocodiles and hippos. So
exactly, I'm very excited on that one. Very excited, and the team is amazing. We are coordinating in equally everything.
Thank you, Mr. Alex.
It's a pleasure again. Thank you.
So I'm just gonna swing around. This is our Starlink unit and our generator that's powering it. This is our kitchen setup. And one more swing back over to the Kafue River and a couple more of our boats here. And then I think we can take some questions if there are any in the chat. So if you've got them, put them into the chat and let us know.
All right. Joe, that sounds absolutely perfect. It looks like you have a great team. And I love that there's a mixture of experienced as well as inexperienced. So, a lot, it looks like people from the community are getting a chance to see this part of the country, part of the national park they haven't seen before. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, we've got a really great team. We've got 4 Zambians with us right now. We've got a Zimbabwean. We had some Botswanans. We've got a couple of South Africans, and me, the token American. So it's been a great, diverse group, and to be able to explore a system like this together has really been a treat. And you build a really special type of friendship when you're on the river like this, when you have to protect one another and feed one another, and you see people at their best and you see people at their worst. And at the end of the day, everybody gives each other a big high five, and we applaud one another for another successful, safe day in the books.
Amazing. Well, Joe, we're hitting you at just the right time. We got that beautiful light as the sun is setting, so that's pretty cool. I do have more questions coming here in the chat. Just a reminder to everybody tuning in, don't be shy. Please keep the questions coming. But let's start with hippos. You talked a lot about hippos. There's definitely some hippo questions here. Do you know roughly how long they can stay underwater?
My understanding is they spend about 6 minutes underwater between breaths. And so it's been actually a kind of a tricky thing to try to count the number of hippos. So usually my approach to estimating hippo density, as soon as we see hippos downstream, and it's usually, one of our really experienced paddlers, they'll see hippos and they'll say, hippos on the left. And the first thing I do is I look way down on the left side of the river and I start counting, because they'll all pop up at once and they'll all have a good look. And then once they realize you're coming, most of them disappear, and only the big, confident males will keep their heads up. And it's a bad deal when they start approaching you. So most of the time they just go back underwater and go to the other side of the river. But we've had a few start grunting and groaning and barking at us. And then we've actually had a few charge us. So you'll kind of see them rear up on their hind legs and then dive into the water. And then they're porpoising on the water surface, chasing your boats. And at that point, you paddle as fast as you can to try to get away from them. And thus far, we've had no incidents, but we have had a few kind of intense encounters, to say the least.
All right. Well, Joe, I am going to, while you were kind of showing us around and we were meeting the team and we saw the boats and such, I made a little Kahoot quiz for the classrooms, because it's always fun to have a little interaction and see who comes out on top. So I'm going to share that Kahoot quiz on the screen in just a moment, and we'll play a little Kahoot together. To the classrooms who are joining us, don't be shy. I've got a few more questions here, but keep the questions coming. I know we have a high school group hanging out in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I see others in Ontario. So don't be shy and put those questions into the chat. I'm going to share my screen. Actually, before I share my screen, I should launch the Kahoot. That's an important part too. So let me hit launch. And then we're going to play a little Kahoot together. There we go. And you should see it pop up on the screen right about now. There we go. So today, The Kahoot.it is the website that you want to head to, Kahoot.it. There is a PIN number. That PIN number is, for today, 3596946. So if you are joining in a classroom, maybe you have one-to-one technology at your seat, you can join from there. If not, absolutely no big deal. Maybe your teacher could pop it up at the front of the room. You could shout out your answers to him or her. And then if you are at home, we often have home students who join. You can register with the QR code, maybe on your phone, maybe on a tablet. That is another way that you can come and join us. So Joe, while we're waiting for a few more groups to join, can you tell me what's on the menu for tonight? We saw your kitchen. What's on the menu for tonight?
You know, we're actually really lucky. Fundis is one heck of a cook.
Yeah.
So I think we're probably going to be eating some shima and rice, and then probably some potatoes and vegetables, and then some biltong. And I know that a lot of these things need a little explanation. So nshima is a maize-based porridge, and usually it's eaten with your hands. I find it delicious. And biltong is a dried meat. It's a specialty from South Africa. So it's dried beef, which then we cook into a stew. And, you know, after a long day on the river, it's really nice to have some protein from the biltong. So it's one of our daily dinners. And, you know, I must say we've been eating pretty darn well on this trip, despite the tough conditions out here in the field.
All right, excellent. Well, we do have some classes. We do have some individual students in here. So let's play some Kahoot together. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to move it to my second screen so that I can control a little bit better. But I think we are ready to go. So here we go. 20 seconds for each question. The quicker you put the correct answer in, the more points you'll get on the leaderboard. So 3, 2, 1. And we are off. We have a multiple choice. What country is the Kafue River in? Is it the Congo, Zambia, Uganda, or Tanzania? You have some noise behind you, Joe?
Yeah, calling. Through the gap.
All right, a couple more seconds to get your answer in. All right, good job, crew. Absolutely is in Zambia. Completely contained within Zambia. And Joe, 1,600 kilometers, is that right?
Yeah, and actually we're going to get a full measure of it as we do this transect. So I can update you on that in a month or so.
All right. The Radiant Gnu is in first place. Let's get to our next question. I think it's true and false. Let's see. Yep. So Joe and his team are already close to finishing paddling the river. Was that true or is that false? Joe and the team, they're almost done. They're getting close to the end. Time to pack up. And they're almost finished this epic expedition along the river. A couple more seconds to lock your answer in. All right, that is absolutely false. Joe, I think you said at least 700 kilometers to go. More rapids, more biodiversity, lots more river to come. All right. That puts the lively impala. We're getting some nice African species coming in here in our random generator. So here we go. A multi-select. You need to select 2 for this one. Choose 2 research projects Joe's team is conducting on the river. We've got biodiversity surveys, air quality surveys, plastic surveys, and water quality surveys. So Joe mentioned 2 of them. You've got a little extra time to get your answer in. You need to pick 2 answers for this one. If one's not enough, you need to pick 2. Is it biodiversity surveys, air quality surveys, plastic surveys, and water quality surveys? Which 2 are you going to pick? I know these questions are always a little bit bigger, so there's a little more thinking. But you did well. Biodiversity surveys and water quality surveys were the top answers selected. So good job, crew. Joe, do you have an estimate? How many species do you think you guys have ticked off so far?
Golly, I mean, in terms of birds, probably at least 100 species.
Wow.
Fish, I'm estimating somewhere between 80 and 100 species. Mammals, quite a few. I mean, probably 20, 25 different mammal species, although those are hard to see from the river. Um, Lots. I mean, we also do aquatic invertebrate surveys, plant surveys. So a lot of diversity, and it's a lot to learn, but it's very exciting. You learn something new and you see something new almost every day.
Very, very cool. So the Radiant Gnu is taking that top spot back. I think we're going to have a little bit of a battle. So hippos. Hippos can be a big challenge when paddling down the river. True or false? That those hippos are a challenge when paddling down the river. I got our answers flowing in. Let's see what our classrooms think. All right, absolutely true. Sounds like you've had a few chases, Joe, but luckily no canoe tips or anything like that.
Not from the hippos.
Yeah, just those rapids. All right. Ooh, Karen Condor stealing the lead. One question to go, and then we'll go back to a little Q&A action. So don't be shy. Fill that chat sidebar on YouTube with your questions. So far, the team has not really seen much wildlife on the Kafue River. Is that true or is that false? The team is seen some, but maybe not that much. True or false? All right, we know that's false. No one fell for that one. Sounds like it's been incredible biodiversity. Let's look at our podium, and then Joe, I have to ask you about the fish. It wouldn't be fair to do a whole event and not ask you about the fish. So we got the excited unicorn in third place, the silly cheetah, another nice African animal there in second, and the Karen Condor swooping in the last two questions to hold down that top spot. Very, very cool. Thank you so much to our classrooms for participating in a little Kahoot action and fill up those questions for us. We're going to start grabbing some more of them now. I'm going to turn off our Kahoot because we are finished with Kahoot for now. And Joe, let's get into the fish. You're an ichthyologist. You have studied fish in places around the world like Cameroon and Gabon and now here in Zambia. So what are you seeing? Have you caught much?
Boy, it has been an awesome fish survey. Literally, when we were at the source, I looked in this little tiny bubbling spring and there were fish in it. And I scooped some up with my hat, and they were an undescribed species that, you know, has only been collected once, doesn't have a scientific name, and the fish sampling has been just extraordinary. The upper 150 kilometers of the Kafue has never been sampled for fish. So a lot of what we were catching up there is new to science. We actually caught a catfish that even the experts don't know what genus it belongs to. It's like a really elongate snake-like catfish that no one had ever seen before. So that was really exciting. And the fish diversity has changed as we've gone down the river. We're seeing a lot of cichlids, a lot of bream species, or what are called bream here. So lots of Pharyngochromis and Pseudocrenulabis and Serranochromis. So those are all exciting. Tilapia and Coptodon as well. Lots of squeaker catfish. So these are the upside down catfish you might find at your local aquarium store. Lots and lots of diversity. I actually, just before the call, I put a trap and a net into the water. And those will be in the water overnight. And first thing I do in the morning, even before I go have a cup of tea, is I'll go and check the nets to see what we've got. Last night, I spent about 30 minutes cast netting as the sun was setting. And I caught 8 different species of fish like that. It was really exciting, including a species that we'd only seen one time previously on the expedition. So lots of nice fish, thousands of specimens, hundreds of vouchers and tissue samples. This will be the most thorough and complete fish sampling of the Kafue River ever. And it's a really exciting thing and an important thing because a lot of local communities rely on freshwater fish as a major part of their diet. And there are actually a few invasive species that might be affecting these fish. So it's a really important baseline to use for comparisons as we look forward.
Absolutely. Joe, oh, you're making me so jealous here, and I'm sure a lot of the classrooms are finding this really exciting. You it just sounds like you and the whole team are just doing such great science, finding so many amazing things. And you mentioned cast netting. I happen to have 2 videos of you here cast netting that you've done for us in the past. So I want to show students what that's like. So I'm going to queue up one of these videos here, Joe. We're going to see you cast netting so the students can get a feel for what we're talking about. So here we go.
I'm Joe Cutler, and I'm exploring the fish diversity of the Ogooue River in Gabon. And when I explore, I do it by the seat of my pants.
So Joe, can you describe that net for us?
Hey, looks like I've got something.
Very cool.
It's a really interesting type of net. So it's a circular net with weights on the bottom and a rope that's attached to the top center of it. And if you throw it properly, which I don't always do, the net opens up and becomes like a nice big flat pancake when it hits the water. And as it falls to the bottom, the weights drop the edges first, and any fish that are hanging out in the center of that cast net are then scooped up as you pull it in by the rope. Actually using it a lot on the Kafue as of late, because there have been so many crocodiles in the river that I don't want to get into the water too much. I've been preferring to throw my cast net from a couple meters off the bank and avoid tromping around too much in the water. We have seen some giant crocodiles, and they're most active at night when I like to do my sampling, so I've been a little bit cautious as of late.
All right. That sounds very prudent, Joe. We don't want to have any crocodile incidents. I know those crocodiles can get quite large, so probably a good idea to be using that cast net. We have a few more questions here for you, Joe. The temperature of the water. We know you guys have been dumped a few times. Is it at least kind of warm for you? What's the temperature like?
It's mostly between 22 and 25 degrees Celsius. It's pretty darn warm. You can take a bucket and fill it with water and have a nice shower that way, as long as it's not too cold in the evening. So I would say the water's been pretty warm. It's actually gotten a bit cooler as we've come downstream, but I think that's because we're entering the winter here. So it's actually quite chilly, and everybody's been sleeping in a sleeping bag and wearing a jacket every evening and morning. So it's pretty chilly here in the air, and the water's actually getting a little cooler as we move downstream.
Okay. And that brings us to depth. We have a student curious if you've been able to kind of explore the depth of the river. How deep does it get?
Yeah, as big as this river is, it's actually not very deep. So the greatest depth that we've seen this whole time was about 5 meters or 15 feet deep. It's a little bit deep here. Actually, we're planning to use a machine to measure depth tomorrow here. But our last measurement, the maximum depth was about 3 meters deep, or about 10 feet deep. And you think about a massive river like this and only 10 feet deep. It's kind of remarkable. But again, we are in a historic drought here in Zambia. So the water level is much lower than they should be. And it's going to have really, really big consequences for agriculture, for food availability, and for the people of Zambia in general, and for the wildlife, of course.
Yeah. Joe, we're going to let you get to your evening shortly, but I think before you go, students are always curious about, what inspires people to be doing what they're doing. So we want to know, of course, what has led you to exploring African rivers, but also if you want to ask a few of your team members, what has led them to exploring biology, biodiversity, and being out on an expedition like this?
Yeah, I must admit, I never thought that this would be a possible job. I mean, this is just the coolest thing that I can imagine, and to be able to do this for work is pretty extraordinary. I've always been interested in biodiversity, loving frogs and fish and mammals and whatever I could get my hands on. And as I continued my education, I really started focusing on fish diversity. Um, I just thought, there are 33,000 described species of fish and probably 50,000 globally. So there are a lot of fish out there that no scientist has ever seen or collected, and that got me very excited. Uh, and so, when I was at the university, I did a lot of work in fish labs, and then I never thought that I'd be working on African rivers. And that kind of came a bit by, I'm not going to say entirely chance, but good luck. When I finished up my undergraduate studies, I joined the Peace Corps and volunteered in Cameroon for 3 years. And where I worked in Cameroon, there were some really incredible volcanic crater lakes that were full of endemic fishes that were found nowhere else in the world. So I had the chance as a volunteer in Cameroon to get to know these lakes, get to know these fishes, and start building the foundation to becoming an expert on African fishes. And I worked in Cameroon for 5 years, and then started working in Gabon, the southern neighbor to Cameroon. I worked in Gabon for 9 years, and I ran around that country catching fish everywhere. Uh, and just 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, I joined this project, which has the goals of serving not just the Zambezi system, but also the Congo and Nile system. So anybody who's going to go and explore all these systems, I want to tag along and I want to study the fish. So I've been really lucky to be able to pursue my passion and, be able to follow up on these childhood dreams of chasing fish, exploring biodiversity, and getting to do it in such a remarkable place. I feel really lucky to have this opportunity. I know you wanted some feedback from my team members. It looks like a few people are on other phone calls, but I can at least get Bernard on and ask him what's inspired him to pursue a career, or at least an education focused on biology and biodiversity.
Yeah, that'd be great, Joe.
Yeah, let me just turn the camera around here. Bernard, I want to ask you, so what, let me get to the other side for the better lighting. What was it that made you want to study biology or environmental studies or any of that stuff?
Well, first of all, it came from my interest in environment. I grew up in an environment where the environment is not that much respected. Um, I have seen so much deposit. Like, we've grown up not really appreciating what the environment can offer to us, and people just misuse it mainly. So when I finished my high school, I really never. My family wanted me to do medicine, but I had keen interest in pursuing something different that I would appreciate and add value to. So I had to do biology, and I majored in entomology, to be specific. Why entomology? Is because I had so much interest in telling stories from things that cannot speak, and building up on something that can add value to the environment. Yeah. So that's part of the story. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a question earlier. What's for dinner? What's for dinner, Fundis?
For dinner, it's beans and shima. Yeah.
And biltong.
No, no biltong.
No biltong tonight.
No biltong.
Oh, okay, we'll suffer. All right. And maybe I'll go over and ask also Mr. Alec what inspired him to become a wildlife ranger.
Sure, that'd be great, Joe. Joe, how are the insects? Do you have to worry much about mosquitoes?
You know, they were really bad at the start, but they've been pretty good recently. As of late, actually, the biggest problem has been tsetse flies, and they seem to like chasing our canoes and biting us on our hands and feet as we paddle. So the insects aren't too bad right now. Couple ticks, couple mosquitoes, and a couple tsetse flies. Mr. Alex, I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to become a ranger, a park scout, and working with DNPW?
Yeah. What inspired me to be a ranger is that I grew up in the village. As a young boy, I liked watching animals. I was very curious, and I also thought of conserving them for the future posterity. And even now, for over 30 years, I still have the enthusiasm of doing the same. I can't just stop thinking about being a conservationist. And I've never worked anywhere, and this is my job. I like it. I think in brief, that's what I can say for now. There could be other things, yes, quite all right. But this one is it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Miss Alex.
You are welcome. Thank you.
All right, Joe, I'm going to swing the camera back around.
Yep. There you are.
You can tell how dirty my clothes.
There we go. We lost you for a sec, Joe, but the connection came back. So first of all, as well, Joe, I want to give someone named Russell from Think Tank is giving you a big shout out in the chat. So that's great. Joe, it is such a pleasure to catch up with you in another part of the world where you spoil us with live events from cool places and really good science and research while you're in those places. So fingers crossed we can do this one more time as you make your way further along the river, especially if the Starlink is kicking around. And just a shout out to our classrooms. Such great questions. It's always great to have so many groups hanging out with us. Thanks for playing Kahoot. Joe, say hi to your team. Enjoy some well-deserved dinner. I hope you have lots of more wildlife encounters to share with us. And I imagine you're going to be sifting through fish data and other survey information for months and months to come when this expedition ends.
Of course, but actually I'm going to head straight over to Angola and do a 1,000-kilometer survey of the Kwanza River. So by that time, my beard will be this long. But looking forward to it. I mean, it's an incredible adventure.
All right. Well, take that flag along to Angola, Joe, and hopefully we'll connect from there as well.
Sounds great. Thanks, Joe, and thanks everybody for tuning in. It's really great to get to share the Kafue River with you all.
All right. Stay safe out there, Joe. Always good to see you.
Thanks.